All right, I do have some adjectives to figure out something for Bob here, and I
Good.
think we can all understand this. This isn't just Bob because the Arctic Bob Holt, the bone-chilling Bob Holt, the shivery Bob Holt, because it is just so freaking cold these days. And he joins us right now from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, which is really his house these days. Bob, how are you?
I'm good. I'm staying inside.
You and me both. Although I'm forced to head to Bud Walton later on tonight. There's nothing I can do about that with this game against Mississippi State. We were talking. It's interesting about you see the two basketball teams here, and for the men's side, they've got a better conference record than Mike Neighbors' team does. But as far as the women's basketball tournament's concerned, right now Arkansas probably is a better seed overall than Muss's team does. I guess that has more to do with the overall strength of SEC women's basketball compared to men's basketball. But, you look what's ahead right now for the Hogs men's team with who they've got scheduled coming up, and it's all teams that they're all either right there matched with in the standings or ahead of them in the case of Alabama. They really have a chance to write their own script and not lay, where they're put in the tournament on anybody else other than themselves.
Yeah, they've got a lot of big games coming up. Saturday at Missouri, which is kind of a hard thing to figure out. Missouri ranked 10th after being 13-3 and winning some big games at Tennessee, pretty recently, and then if people watched the game last night, Missouri, that may be the worst game they've played all year. I haven't seen all their games, but it'd be hard to imagine a worse game. They got beat by at Ole Miss by about 20. There's no disgrace in losing to Ole Miss. Tennessee lost to Ole Miss by 2 last week. But go in there and just really not be competitive. They were down 5 at halftime. I think Ole Miss started the second half on a 13-0 run. And, Missouri was 5 of 15 on free throws. And so, if you have a game like that, you kind of got to wonder where your head is. And so I imagine they'll be very focused for Arkansas, very motivated. So I don't think Ole Miss did Arkansas any favors last night. But, that'd be a huge win if Arkansas could get in at Missouri. They're looking for advantage. They got Justin Smith back for this game, who didn't play in the first Missouri game. He'll make a difference. I don't know if he can make a big enough difference to win. And then they got Alabama and LSU coming in here. Who knows if they're going to play either of these A&M games. I don't know if you saw A&M. They just announced A&M's postponing another game. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, the schedule's all out there for Arkansas. They've been taking care of business. They've been beating the teams they're supposed to beat. I know Kentucky's having a bad year, but that was a big win there because Kentucky played. That's probably one of the better games Kentucky's played. And they uncharacteristically shot the three. If anybody's mad because they were leaving them with open threes, well, that was a strategy because Kentucky's a bad shooting team, and they were packing the paint, and Kentucky just got hot. And usually when a team gets that hot, you lose. The other team loses. So that was a good win for Arkansas.
Well, then, you look ahead at the next game against Missouri, and the loss to the Tigers back in January was like the biggest head-scratcher of the year because they just couldn't make not just a shot, but a layup, for crying out loud. And I know they've improved a lot around the rim since that game. You look at 5 losses right now for this team, and I would feel like that's the one that they really want back more than any other. Even the Oklahoma State loss, it's just that it felt like Missouri didn't necessarily defend well enough to Arkansas shoot less than 30% that night.
Yeah, and of course that was actually an early game. It was CBS game. I think it was 11 a.m.
That's right, it was 11.
Razorbacks overall have not played real well in the early game. This one's at 3 o'clock, so they have time to get a shoot around them. But yeah, I think Eric said basically. I have to look back, but he said some of the effect that was like the most disappointing home loss he's experienced as a head coach. And that's the thing. You lose at Oklahoma State. That was over in Stillwater. Yeah, they got blasted at Alabama and LSU. But those were on the road. Alabama was playing really well, and LSU was really talented. They just get kind of schizophrenic or whatever. But yeah, Missouri. That's a home game, and as bad as Arkansas was playing, as bad as they were shooting, it's like Eric said, you felt like they were in that game. And until the very end, they just couldn't get anything going offensively, and their defense wasn't that good. To give up 81 at home, but. Yeah, I think that's probably the most disappointing game they've played all year. So they should certainly be motivated for this game, and Missouri will be too.
Yeah, and of course Justin Smith wasn't available that day because of the ankle injury, and getting him back has, I think, helped a lot for this team to gel. Although you can tell that ankle bothers him late in the game. Doesn't come off though. He still plays on it and plays hard, but I think it affects him. But I think one thing that's been so obvious and so much fun for all of us, one of the reasons this team is gelled, Bob, is because the kids are all right. The freshmen are good on this team. You know, outside of Moses, and it's so obvious with him, Devo adds a lot, and you had to be impressed with Jalen Williams in that second half against Kentucky. These three kids, and I think KK moving forward, we just didn't get enough to see a lot of them. Great freshman class, and they've really rounded into form this year.
Yeah, I mean, Moses Moody, I think most people knew he was the best signee, freshman, but he's really played well, and he's projected to be a first-round pick, and most of my polls I see, so enjoy him while he's here. And then, Devo Davis really brings a lot of energy. You know, you look at the stats the other night, I think he had 4 points and 2 rebounds, assists, but, he made huge plays at the end. Eric trusted him enough to, after Kentucky hit that three, hey, get the ball up and, go to the cup, as I thought Eric put it. And you shoot it soon enough to give yourself a chance to get off at the rebound, which Jalen Tate did. They hit the big free throws, and then Devo made the big steal at the end. The way Kentucky was shooting threes, if they got that ball into the front court and the guy turns and shoots, who knows what happens? So that was a huge steal, and he's made a lot of big plays in SEC games. That's the thing they're doing in SEC games. They're not beating up on some overmatched non-conference teams. And Jalen Williams, I mean, Kentucky's. Like I said, they're having issues, but they're big and they're physical. He goes in there and gets 9 points and 7 boards, hits his free throws. He gets 7 or 8 free throws. That's big. And, as we saw last night with Missouri, they wouldn't have wanted to hit their free throws. They would have been closer. And so, those three freshmen have all made, Moses Moody is probably the best all-around player on the team, but those other two guys are making significant contributions as well. And like I said, I think if KK Robinson was healthy, he'd be playing too.
Bob Holt joining us here on Halftime. Bob, one last basketball tidbit before I want to ask you about Benny Baseball, Andrew Benintendi. Earlier in the show, before we got you on, me and Phil were talking about how can the Razorbacks get off the 8-9 seed line for the NCAA tournament game. And in your estimation, what would need to happen for this team to get off that 8-9 seed line? Is it finishing second, third in the SEC, in the conference, getting far in the SEC tournament? What needs to happen for this team to avoid an 8-9 seed?
Well, I guess it sounds simple. Is just keep winning the games you're supposed to win, and that's going to depend on what teams in other conferences do too. But if like I say, who knows they're going to play A&M? But if you play A&M, beat A&M. Beat LSU, maybe upset. Upsetting Alabama would be huge, I think, because Alabama right now is looking like 2-3 seed. So beating Alabama would help the resume a ton. But it also could be nullified if they lose. If they do play, and if they lose a game like that. So they've got to keep winning the games they're supposed to win. If they could win at Missouri, beat Alabama, something like that, and if as soon as we have an SEC tournament, they can win a couple games there. That'll help too. But I think if they get to 20-something wins, I can see them being a 6 or 7 seed, especially if some of those wins are over teams like Missouri and Alabama.
It's going to be interesting to finish to the season. Real quick before we let you go, I also want to ask you about Andrew Benintendi being traded to the Kansas City Royals in a 3-team deal. And he started off incredibly for the Red Sox when he helped lead them to the 2018 World Series and the postseason run with them. And he's really struggled these past 2 years. How do you think he'll translate now? Change of scenery, coming a little bit closer to Arkansas, going to Kansas City. How do you think he'll translate for the Royals?
I think it's probably a good move for him. Last year, a very small sample size. I guess he had a rib injury, and I think he only played in 14 or 15 games. I think he had less than 50 at bats. He got off to a horrible start, like 0-18 or something. Then he got hurt. And of course, last year was such a weird year for everybody. So I'm not exactly sure. The Red Sox, and he's going to be a free agent after this year. Maybe the Red Sox feel like, well, if he has a big bounce back year, we can't sign him. And I don't know enough about these prospects they're getting back in return, but I think he'll probably benefit from a change of scenery. I think, Boston's, a hard place for a left-hand hitter to pull the ball out of that ballpark. Much better if you're a right-hand hitter with a Green Monster. And so I think, Royal Stadium, I guess it's Kauffman Stadium. I think that might be a little better ballpark for him to hit in. And he's a good hitter. He had 3 really good years, and then, last year it's just such a small sample size and an injury. And Boston was just kind of a train wreck. The whole team was, organization was. So I think a change of scenery will probably do him good. I think when players get traded, they get extra motivated to show, hey, I'm pretty good. You shouldn't have traded me. And, he's from Cincinnati. He obviously went to school here. I assume he enjoyed living in Boston, but, Kansas City maybe will be a little better fit for him. The media pressure in Boston and New York is probably like no other in the major leagues. So maybe being in a little more relaxed atmosphere in Kansas City will help him. So I think it's certainly fun for Arkansas fans because you have a lot of Royals fans up here, and you have a lot of Benintendi fans, and I like to cheer from both at the same time.
I think Boston gave up on him too early. And honestly, I don't really think they care. When it comes right down to it, they're tearing that thing down and almost starting over again. Bob, we'll leave it there. Appreciate you. Stay warm.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
You guys too, yeah. Yeah, and I think the Red Sox are just a mess right now, so I don't think it's necessarily bad to get out of there.
I think that's right. I think it's probably a good thing for Benny overall. Less pressure, and I think the Royals, not like they're going to be AL Central champions, but they might have a little something going on there. Halftime brought to you by the Yumdinger, with largemouth bass spawning soon at ponds and lakes all over Arkansas and Oklahoma. You're going to need the Yumdinger to catch them. They make them by the truckloads in Fort Smith in 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, and 6-inch sizes. And you'll find the Yumdinger in tackle boxes of bass anglers all over the United States and all over the world. Wacky rigging the 5-inch model can't be beat for spawning bass. You'll find the Yumdinger at Walmart, Bass Pro Shops, Academy, LureNet.com, and tackle stores all over the place. The Yumdinger. And halftime wraps up the first hour after this.